Hi, I'm Ashley Range, Nessie enthusiast, and you are listening to the UNFREAKINGBELIEVABLE podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the UNFREAKINGBELIEVABLE podcast. My co-hosts and I are all authors who are out to share with you the moments that alter the course of everyday lives in ways that are, well, unfreaking believable. We bring you stories of those inciting incidents that can alter the course of a person's life. I'm Jen.
I'm Jenny.
I'm Betsy. Thank you for listening to another episode. And ladies, do you realize that our first anniversary is coming up really soon?
I know. I'm so excited for it. I can't believe it's been almost a year.
I know.
It's crazy.
We've had a lot of great episodes this year. I've been really pleased with the guests that we've had and all that.
We've met some really cool people, and I'm pleased to say I think we're still in touch with all of them.
I know. We made a lot of friends that way.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. And not to necessarily drop any sort of teasers, but we have some pretty cool people lined up for 2025 as well.
Yes, we do.
So,
yeah.
Some people sort of on the national stage. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
When we first started this, we made a list of big asks who we wanted to have on the show, and I've got one that I'm ready to reach out to and ask. So
I know who it is. I'm so excited.
I'm hoping that'll be and I'm hoping that'll be good for 2025. Jen, I believe you have a word of the day for us. What's our word of the day?
I do, and this is something that is close to all of our hearts, and also I think close to the heart of our guest today. And the word today is epistemophilia.
Epistemophilia.
Okay.
Which is the excessive love of knowledge.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I have a lifelong epistemophilia.
Your entire book series is based on epistemophilia.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh, and Jenny, you've got some fun facts for us today because our epistemophilia is acting up. We want to know what they are.
And I am here to bring it to you.
All right,
so
let's have it.
I have 3 quick animal fun facts today. So I found these very interesting. Beavers actually have transparent eyelids that act as goggles so they can see underwater.
I wonder if Nessie has those.
Oh,
We'll have to ask. We'll find out later today.
I also now am picturing like a beaver in goggles. So
that
thank
me
you for
too.
that.
I have been ever since I read it.
Big Coke bottle goggles.
Yes.
Nice.
All right. And camels actually have 3 eyelids that help protect their eyes from the blowing sand.
Yeah, they'll need that.
Yeah.
And very long eyelashes too.
Yes, they do. They have incredibly long eyelashes. Now I wish I had written down that part of the fact. But the third one's another eyelid. It's all eyelids today because this one's quite fascinating. Polar bears have a third eyelid, which helps filter UV light and effectively acts as a pair of sunglasses for them.
Sweet. Ray-Bans, baby.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, evolution's a cool thing. Evolution,
sure is.
adaptation, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be talking a little bit about adaptation today. I would be willing to bet. And on that note, I am excited to introduce our guest to you today. Remember how back in April, we 3 went on this adventure in the Blue Ridge Mountains? And on that trip, we had the opportunity to interview Amanda, the Bigfoot lady, who has
We
since
love
become
Amanda.
We love Amanda. She's become a friend of the show. And also her mom, which was a great bonus.
Yes.
Signed up for my email list. I'm so happy.
And that was one of our most fun episodes and bonus videos to date. Well, every salt has its pepper, every peanut butter has its jelly, and every Bigfoot lady has a Nessie lady friend. Right, Betsy?
Exactly.
And tonight we're thrilled to have Ashley Range, the American Nessie lady, and I have so dubbed her, on the show. Ashley, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
So it is written, so as it is done. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Hopefully no more technical issues. We can all hear each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we're so excited to have you here because, of course, Amanda talked about you when we met her back in April, and she told us that, we would definitely all have to meet each other at some point. And then you and I had a a phone conversation that I can't even tell you how long that phone conversation would have gone had it not been for the fact that my storage unit cut us off because I was inside a metal building. So yeah. So I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I want to make a joke about pina coladas and long walks on the beach, but that's a different episode.
I do like a good pina colada, though. I'll say that.
Well, yeah, you kind of nailed it on the head. My name is Ashley Range, an American who just happens to be obsessed with all things Nessie and her kin all around the world. But to that point, I'm quite a mundane person. My hobbies include writing. That's one of the reasons why I was so excited to meet you guys, because I also too fancy myself a bit of a writer. So as much as you guys talk about WriterCon and all of that, I like, ooh,
put it on your bucket list.
Yeah, definitely. It is. It is. But no, I live a pretty simple life here in Washington State, one of the most, if not the, I'll say it, most beautiful state.
Bigfoot capital of the world.
Bigfoot capital of the world. Well, it's so funny because, and we'll get more into it as we go, but like, how did I get into all of this? And like, Washington's a spooky, ooky place, man. We have a little bit of everything. Bigfoot, UFOs, lake monsters, sea serpents,
volcanoes,
volcanoes. Oh my goodness, the ring. Yeah. Little not so proud fact, also the highest per capita of serial killers in the nation. I mean, it gets really weird. It was in Washington that the term UFO, or excuse me, flying saucer was actually coined. So a lot of weird stuff. As far as telling you about myself specifically, I'm just your average American woman, not too many other crazy hobbies other than this. Man, it's like, when stand up in class and tell people about yourself, it's like, no. That's why I like to talk about Nessie, not so much myself, but
well, back when I was a teacher, I played a slightly different game. It wasn't tell us about yourself. It was tell us one unusual fact about yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think you would have nailed that one.
Gosh. Nope. I failed that one too. Gosh.
No, well, the Nessie thing counts.
It does.
I think the Nessie thing, like a Nessie obsession definitely counts for the classroom exercise for sure.
And honestly, that would have been my answer, that I'm Nessie obsessed.
Well, I can relate. And I mentioned that, every Bigfoot lady has a Nessie lady friend. And I am the Nessie lady friend, as you know, because we talked on the phone for quite a while.
She is my Nessie lady.
I am the Nessie lady.
And I'm the abominable snowman lady.
Oh, yes.
I need me a counterpart.
Got the triad.
Exactly.
It's so bad that I bought my nieces when that new Tatum Tanning movie came out. I always say his name wrong. Channing Tatum.
That's it.
When he was in Abominable.
Oh, he has a name?
I bought my nieces the stuffed animals from I couldn't even get rid of the stuffed animals. I kept them all for myself.
That's cute.
I respect that, though, deep down.
Yeah. As anybody who looks over my shoulder can see, I have my own collection of stuffed animals. So I can't get rid of them either.
Guys, are we there yet?
I think we are there yet. Wah, wah, wah.
So, Ashley, why don't you tell us how your love for Nessie and cryptids got started?
Well, gosh, from a very young age, and I was kind of thinking about this because, again, Washington State, it's kind of all around you. But for me, it really started when I was 5 years old. I remember it so vividly. While I grew up around and near the Seattle area, I think, it doesn't really matter to name little suburbs because, when you say from Washington, people are like, oh, Seattle? It's like, yeah, Seattle, sure.
Close enough.
But yeah, close enough. I was born and raised near the Seattle area, but I spent most of my time in the wonderful town of Lake Chelan, Washington, just like the crowning jewel of the state. What makes it so wonderful is it has its own wonderful, magical lake, Lake Chelan, 55-mile long glacier lakes. It's one of my favorite places in the whole wide world, next to Scotland, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. But I grew up spending every summer as long as I could remember there. And it kind of turns into a bit of a lake snob because it's like, when you can be out 15, 20 feet and still see your shadow at the bottom of the lake, depending on, what beach you're at. I mean, that it's like, yeah, I don't want to go in your mucky lake.
Yeah, don't come to Oklahoma to go to the lake. Our lakes here are nasty. We have one here that's the actual name of it is Lake Thunderbird, but the colloquial name is Lake Dirty Bird.
Yeah.
If you have a white bathing suit, when you come out of the water, it will be pink.
It would be pink.
Ew.
The water is disgusting.
That's nasty.
Yeah, it is
See,
nasty.
now in Florida, you could go to the springs. I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know about that our lakes are particularly nice. Mostly they're, fairly silty. But we do have lots of springs, natural springs, and those are quite clear and beautiful.
If you were to come to New Hampshire, where I'm from, we have crystal clear lakes and streams.
I bet that's beautiful this time of year.
Yeah, we've got Lake Winnipesaukee, Newfound Lake, just so many up here. It's gorgeous up here. And I love Washington State, too, because I tell you, in my novel, I have like these mountainous islands, I call them. I want to visit so bad the coast of Washington and Oregon for those tall mountains that are right on the coast, because that's what I use described in my book.
You have an in now. Come,
there you go.
Guest room.
Yeah.
Come on over. All you ladies. We'll have a book party. Our own little private writers retreat. And show you guys around.
But I don't know if you know this about me, Ashley. I actually grew up in Bellingham.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I lived there when I was like 2, and that's when I learned about Bigfoot. So that's one of the reasons I'm into the cryptids is because of my time in Washington State.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Bellingham, like that's just right around the bend. That's neat.
No, it's beautiful up there for sure. So tell us a little bit about your actual investigations. I know you've got an unfreaking believable story for us. Why don't you go ahead and dive into that?
Well, I do want to backtrack just a little bit.
Okay.
When I was referring back to Lake Chelan, I didn't kind of got sidetracked on the beauty and the lake snobbery, but I will say this. I thought at 5 years old that I had a sighting of some kind of creature. And I was with my family, and my grandpa being my grandpa, you had a sighting of the monster, did you? And it's like, when you're a little kid, your grandpa just said that there was a monster out there. They exist, and it's like, oh, that's not a monster, grandpa, kind of scared a little bit thinking about it. And it's like, what? No, just like you don't know about Nessie, her cousin. And, and it kind of of all the weird things, man, I wish I would have gotten a love for like algebra or like geography or something useful. But no, it was like a spark, a snap. And it's like, okay, monsters exist. And, I just kind of dived into that. No pun intended.
Yeah, because grandpa would never lie to you, right?
Yeah, no, grandpa would. Yeah, right. Well, it's funny because it's a little bit too long to get into, but the short answer is I do not believe there's anything monstrous in that lake from my own research, from my own kind of low-key investigation. I wish there was, because if there was any lake in the world that should have something, it should be that lake. And it drives me crazy because it's like there's not a lot of suspicious paranormal activity in that lake, no doubt. I've seen some lights and I've seen some unexplained things for sure, but I don't think there's monsters. I do in that lake. I do think that there's some pretty big prehistoric fish down there. It definitely has like the sturgeons and stuff, and there's a lot to it. But of all the lakes not to have something, it's that lake. And ironically, that's the lake that kind of sparked this whole entire thing. But from that point on, whatever I could get my hands on, I would, read books in the library. I would watch any specials that came on TV that, a kind of a love of all things paranormal. And, most kids wake up on Saturday mornings and they watch Saturday morning cartoons. I was watching Discovery Channel between like 9 and noon because it was back in the olden days before the internet. That's where you got your information. It's like, our ghost reel, Loch Ness monster, Bigfoot, and I would just absorb it. And I just got to say, and the stuff that I got made fun of for liking as a kid growing up, things I got shoved in lockers for, it's like all of a sudden now it's so mainstream, it's so cool, and everybody acts like they've always been a part of it. And it's like, no, you weren't. It was just us. It was just us, man. We had to.
They're not OGs. They don't know.
No.
Yeah, no.
Now, granted, the argument is, well, internet happened and we can talk to each. I mean, look at it. We're all four of us. We're completely in different places having a real time conversation. So I think as more knowledge got out there, these things did grow. I've listened to so many podcasts specifically about Bigfoot, and you'll hear the guy talk. You'll hear an older gentleman talking about, I didn't even know what a Bigfoot was. I'd never even heard about it. Or, hey, we read something in a library book, but, the connections aren't there. So I think, now people have always had an interest in these things, but the information and availability to share and discuss is so much bigger. And I think that's what's happening with that. But I grew up kind of with this love of all things Loch Ness, specifically the lake monsters and the sea monsters and the serpents and there was just something about it, because I felt like you guys talk about the woo a lot in these things, and Nessie and her kin. Nessie is arguably the most famous, but by no means the only one. So I use Nessie kind of as the colloquial, like kind of the catch-all.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say, like, to me, it was like, okay, there's a flesh and blood creature out there worth exploring. Bigfoot goes into such, I won't say crazy territories, and it's not worth the discussion, but now it's like Bigfoot, you're talking about portals, you're talking about dimensions, you're talking about telepathy, you're talking about all these things. And I'm not here to talk about that today in the sense of, is that true or is that not true? But Nessie has always kind of, to me, been more about the adventure of discovering what that creature is. And most little girls, grow up, or they pretend to be princesses, right? They want to be the damsel in distress and whatnot, time and place. But I was the little girl who wanted to go on adventures. I wanted to go find these things. I actually had this persona when I was growing up. I would go make little fake campsites growing up, and I called myself Indiana Jane.
I love it.
Real original, I know.
I love it. My brother and I used to play Indiana Jones and set things up.
Yeah. But and I would go on these, these wild imagination adventures to find things. And I have to remind people all the time, who like, oh, Nessie, huh? And it's like, yeah, there was a time when we, the more obvious ones, the low-hanging fruit. There was a time when we thought platypuses were completely made up taxidermy jokes. There was a time when we thought silverback gorillas were a myth, a legend.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until some brave people went out there, not only found them, but, brought them back. We discover new creatures all the time. It's not absurd. And I think, especially when it comes to terms with Nessie, we all want it to be this kind of plesiosaur, right? We all have that kind of mental image in our head, and in my heart, she'll always be a plesiosaur. But the truth is, we don't know. And that's why I call myself an enthusiast, because no one person is an expert. There is none. There is no expert in these things. We're all just a bunch of enthusiasts sharing our excitement, our stories, our knowledge, our research. It's actually a fun community to be a part of. And I'll go in deeper in a minute about all that. But it's just, she's important to me for a lot of reasons. And I think the key one there is just that ever-present sense of adventure for me personally. And the mystery. It's always fun, right? Who doesn't love a good mystery?
Well, and it's interesting that you say that about the delineation between the sort of the mythos that's grown up around Bigfoot versus the mythos that's grown up around Nessie, because at least, I'm sure there are some elements out there that are more this way, but the vast majority of people who are interested in Nessie don't see her as something magical. They see her as an undiscovered, scientific, earthbound type creature. So there's not sort of the conspiracy theories as much, at least not as wild. Would you agree with that, Betsy?
Yeah, I would. And every year about 18,000 new species are being discovered. And those can be things as small as insects or unknown, fossilized dinosaurs. It could be anything. And I think that Nessie is just another one of those creatures that we just don't know enough about to really quantify or qualify.
So I'm curious how all this love is going to, I'm eager to hear your unfreaking believable story.
Well, so as we lead into that, do you want to tell us a little bit about your first trip to the loch and then we'll lead into your story, because in our discussion, I know that the first trip to the loch sort of led into your story. So why don't you tell us about the first time that you were there, and then we'll let you tell your big story.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And gosh, it's so hard not to interrupt every single one of you, because you guys just are already bringing up so many wonderful points that it's not that I want to steamroll over you guys, but you're already bringing up some excellent points. And I will say this, the joke I have amongst my Nessie friends is this: there is always room for woo. And you have to be able to think of things from every angle. I'm going to butcher the quote, but Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, once you've eliminated the rational, and if all you are left with is the implausible, then that's what you have, right? And so as a debater, I can give you arguments for both flesh and blood and woo, because there is room for both, and there are different camps, but I like to walk just right down that middle line and try to hear everybody out. But to your point about the unfreaking believable story about me being able to go to Scotland and have that adventure, I do have to say one quick backstory, and I'm going to preface it by big shout out to my best friend, Amanda, the Bigfoot lady. Amanda, yes. I love her more than any other person in this world. Real quick, I do want to touch upon how we met, because it is integral to the story. So we met, we were working for this company in North Dakota, and both of our families just coincidentally ended up there right around the same time in 2014. And I had a cork board of all these little drawings. My husband's actually quite a talented artist, and he would, what do you want on your board? And I'd tell him, I want you to draw this or that. And he'd just do little doodles, and I'd stick them on, and it kind of became a gallery where people were interested in it. And he asked me one day, what do you want? And I said, I wanted our cat Toby made to look like the 2014 movie poster of Godzilla. He said that was dumb and nobody would get it. And I said, it doesn't matter. It's what I want. You asked me what I wanted. That's what I want. So he did it. I put it on my board, just, not thinking anything of it. And Amanda comes up. I knew her. We talked here and there for at least a few weeks, but within hours of that picture being on my wall, she's dropping off whatever at my desk, and we're just, the weather, small talk. She looks up and she's like, is that a cat made to look like the 2014 Godzilla movie poster? Instant best friends. Just from that moment on, it was an instant. I
nailed it.
Oh my goodness. And I think I had her over at my house, like, if not that night, the next night. It was just like, come on over, hang out. And we've been inseparable for, 10 years. She's my best friend. I love her. And it's been 10 wonderful years. And the reason why I bring that up is because one, just because she was a guest, and kind of a little throwback there. But the first time I went to Scotland was actually with Amanda. It's one of those things where there's not too many people I would want to travel the world with, but when you find your person, it's just everything clicks, everything flows. And she, and actually her husband came along with us too, but he knows he was the security detail, and he knows it. He's okay with it. But we got to go, and it was really important to me at the time to have that experience. I'd always wanted to go to Scotland from the time I was 5 years old. Nessie aside, just a love in my heart for all things Scottish, and to see that dream come true. I was not just going on vacation, I was going to the place I've always wanted to go, and I was going to be able to see and touch and do these things, especially Nessie related. And it was just so magical to share that with my best friend. And they both just really went out of their way to make sure that I had more than enough Nessie time. Because, it's still a vacation. We still wanted to do a lot of things and see a lot of things. And so very, very thankful for that. And yes, as a Nessie enthusiast, being encouraged by my loved ones, not just Amanda, but my friends and family all know that I'm the Nessie lady, right? Like, it was actually through a different podcast. So I do this thing where if I'm cleaning or whatever, sometimes I'll just look up podcasts by topic. I'll just throw in a random topic of whatever it is I'm thinking of, whatever's on mind. And this particular day, it was like, all right, Nessie. Yeah, I'm feeling Nessie. Like, of course, I'm going to, search for something about Loch Ness. A podcast, I believe, Beastly Theories, hosted by Andy McGrath. Shout out to Andy, one of my favorite authors. He writes his own book series, good stuff. He's got a really great TV show right now called Weird Britain. Really good guy. And he had an interview with another very good friend of mine, Mr. Alan McKenna, who was not a friend at the time. That's a part of the Unfreaking Believable story. But they had one of the best interviews, or conversations, I should say, about Loch Ness, where they covered everything from the creature, from the woo aspect, from the geological components of the loch, to the history, to all the people who had come before them in search of this creature, both good and bad. There's been a lot of hoaxes. There's been a lot of not so much great findings, and then there's been other good stuff. They weren't shy. They just covered the whole gamut, and they brought up topics that me, from the sidelines, as an American who's had an interest in these kind of things, would always just be like, oh, it's so frustrating. They never talk about this, or they never talk about that. They never bring this up. And it's like, these guys just dove right into it. And at the end of that episode, Andy's doing plugs for, hey, Mr. or Alan, do you want to talk to the audience, and are you plugging anything? Are you promoting anything? And all it was just a website, just a simple website. Hey, if you're interested, you can find us here. LNE, the Loch Ness Exploration Group. Sorry, all tongue-tied. But on a whim, I contacted him, sent out an email just saying, hey, I love that podcast episode. Thank you so much. Kind of what you guys already know about me. Like, I'm an enthusiast from America, and this really meant something to me. Thank you. And to my absolute surprise, he wrote back thoughtfully, thoroughly, a very long, he really went out his way to respond to each of my points. And that started kind of an email back and forth. And next thing you know, I was invited to some really awesome groups online, Facebook, whether it was his own group for LNE, or whether it was the Loch Ness Research Center itself. Like, these aren't necessarily secret groups. You can find them, but to basically get a hand invite into them, and was just kind of mind-blowing. All of a sudden I was talking to people and being around people that, like, names that I actually knew, people who actually have a voice in this community. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're here. I can talk to them. I can literally talk to my heart's content about the Loch Ness Monster, and they're not going to shut me down, think that I'm weird, or it's like, all ideas welcome, all voices welcome. Just don't talk about the tunnels. But so yeah, just being a part of that community. And
is that where your Unfreaking Believable story begins?
Yes, okay. Exactly. That's where it truly begins. Becoming friends with these people and sharing this enthusiasm. I think I kind of set myself apart a little obsessively, because, I would comment on all these photos. I would, ask questions, and I wasn't just, a troll in the comment section. And soon enough, so flashback to, what was it? So 2004. So in 2023, Alan spearheaded with other resources there in Loch Ness, what is called the Quest. And at the time, it was the largest search for the Loch Ness Monster in like 50 years. They had sonar, they had watch stations all over the loch. This was huge. It made national news. As a matter of fact, I actually had the privilege of being on a few of those broadcasts myself. But that was the point. I couldn't be there to do anything in person, but I did what I could stateside. I managed a couple of webcams. Very early our time. It's an 8-hour difference. We're 8 hours ahead, so it was very really early in the morning. But anything for the cause, and it was cool. And I thought, wow, I got to be a part of that. That was really neat. That was really cool. Unbeknownst to me, it was such a big deal, such a big success, that they did it again the following year. To the best of my knowledge, and I actually don't fully know, but to the best of my knowledge, it was never supposed to be an annual thing. It was just kind of a one-time thing. And then again, it was so successful. The second time around, I was personally invited to be there to join. And I remember kind of having a bit of a panic attack. Like, how do I talk to my husband about this? How do I tell him politely that hey, honey, I'm gonna go to Scotland for a Loch Ness expedition. Mind you, the time in which I was actually approached about going versus the time of the actual trip, we were talking weeks. Ironically, the first trip to Scotland I took with Amanda, that took almost a year to plan. So this was just, all right, we're going to do this. And so yes, getting to Scotland and getting to meet all these people that I've grown fondly of, and this group that we've built, and to be on a real expedition. This wasn't just, oh, I'm going to go on a tourist boat and take some pictures and hope for the best. I mean, this was real research between sonar readings, boat expeditions, some amazing hydrophone recordings that we had. Like this was just so great. And I was able to get there a few days before, kind of get my bearings by the time the actual event rolled around, and it's like hit the ground. And there are so many things that happened on that trip, and the exploration that happened, I don't even know where to start. It was all just super, super duper exciting. And shout out to Mr. Alan McKenna, who has become a very great friend and who led that whole thing beautifully. And everyone, like I said, who went out of their way to make me feel special. Like it I think it meant something to them. Like, oh, it's not just a local trying to, play a touristy part. Like this, I think that we really bonded over this, and to be able to share in that adventure was just, I mean, gosh, the golden ticket, right? Just amazing.
Yeah, I think anytime you approach it from the scientific standpoint, you're going to earn credibility in that community really quickly.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. And it sounds like, sort of starting with this initial email contact that went back and forth, that led to the absolute embodiment of your childhood dream coming true.
100%.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit about the expedition and what you saw, what you did, what you learn, anything that blew you away?
Yes, actually. So we had the what we call the day stuff, right? So that was more like press coming to talk to everybody and what our expectations were and how exciting that was. And we each day was kind of planned, and as far as, okay, we're going to meet here, we're going to do this, we're going to go here. That was all great. That was all fun. That was wonderful. But the real magic happened. Alan got a small team of us together to do some night exploration. This was not necessarily documented by anybody or any, this was just us. Like, okay, anybody who wants to come join us, let's go. And it ended up being a small ragtag team of us. We have, again, Mr. Alan McKenna, we have Dave Hastings, we have Roland Watson, and myself. So, I mean, if it's a sitcom, ladies, I am telling you, the I think about this. So imagine 4 very enthusiastic people from every walk of life you could imagine. I mean, we could not be any more different outside of our shared focus, love, and desire to find Nessie, right? And right. So everyone is brave, everybody's tough until it's the middle of the night and you're on a very famous loch and you hear a splash in the
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Squirrel.
Yeah. So okay. It's not as as organized. It was very much organic, I didn't really have anything to bring to the table. These guys, being locals for better, or lack of a better word, they came with their night vision, they came with their hydrophone, they came with their tools and ready to go. And after some crash course on how to use stuff, we kind of had a little bit of a command center. We had our own little command center kind of set up. And the first night we were set up kind of around this, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the bay we were at, but we were just kind of on the water's edge there.
Is it Urquhart Bay?
Mainly that. Very close. In fact, I do have a story about that's the next night.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But yes. And so we're on the water and it's like anything can happen. And here's the thing that enthusiasts like me are fully aware that there are birds, big fish, eels. There's a lot of stuff that goes bump in the night and they're not all paranormal, right? And so even just getting an understanding of what is there is still so beneficial. Of course, everybody wants the smoking gun picture. Everybody wants that undeniable piece of proof, but a lot of the scientific work is mapping out what is there and what your surroundings are. I mean, we spent a good 20 minutes setting up the audio before we could even use it. And then even then, it's like, you're listening and it's like, okay, well, what, that sounds like somebody's boat backing out back into the loch. That sounds like, okay, that's clearly a fish jumping because you can tell at the distance. You're taking all these notes. Also building camaraderie. You build a real trust. I mean, for all intents and purposes, here I am, a youngish female traveling on her own, hanging out with these guys who, I just met theoretically on a loch in the middle of the night. And it's just, like I said, the camaraderie was really, really great. And so the first night was just kind of setting that up. The second night is when we get into the real fun. You were mentioning Urquhart Castle and being on these hillsides we were up in the highlands, spelunking over sheep, trying not to fall off cliff sides, trying to get an aerial advantage of the loch itself. And because the theory is, and it's not official, again, there's no experts, but I think most people who are excited about Nessie would agree, the probability of it being a nocturnal creature is very, very strong. And I personally believe that Nessie, if truly found, is not going to be found necessarily in the middle of the water or even deep under the water. I believe almost in an amphibious way, these creatures come to shore. Mm-hmm. And so we were focusing that research on the shoreline to try to get an idea of, what possible habits this creature could have. Clearly it has to breathe some sort of air. A lot of amphibious creatures tend to have their babies, lay their eggs, whatever, on shore. It's those warmer, shallower waters that a lot of action happens. And a lot of people are just so oblivious to that. And so that's kind of what we were trying to get an idea of. And in fact, I have this video and it drives me crazy to this day. Like So we were on the hillside and luckily the moon was fairly bright. It kind of lit up. There's not there's not any light pollution over there. So you get a clear view of the sky. We had a beautiful view of the loch. It was practically lit up for us already. So you could see. And I heard this big splash. I mean, I live on a lake. I've grown up on lakes my entire life. I know what a bloop, like I know what a fish sounds like jumping out of a lake. This was a big splash. And actually from our vantage point, we could see, for my words, I'm not saying that the guys would explain it this way, but from my point of view, I could see what looked like shadows and movement in the water. And by the time I got my camera on it was gone. And it's like, even in the video, because I'm recording, it's like, guys, I had one job. I am so sorry. Like I really felt like I had dropped the ball on that one. But again, people ask me all the time, do you really think you're going to find the Loch Ness monster? We might. You never know. You never know. And to be there, to be the boots on the ground, every little bit of evidence we collect is just that much more to discovering what this thing is. And I will say this real quick. We take for granted these types of things. Like we know alligators and crocodiles exist. We know sharks exist, but we lose the sight of the fact that those are prehistoric creatures. They are in a way living dinosaurs. And I don't think Nessie or her kin around the world, I don't think it's any different. I think whatever's in that lake is very old and, if not the same creature. I don't think we're seeing the exact same creature for the last, 50 years, 100 years, all the way back to St. Columba. But I do believe it is a reoccurring older type of creature. So that would be like the real unfreaking believable moment, obviously, would be getting chosen to go and being able to do that. But to actually be, like I said, boots on the ground, not just a tourist, just to this day, I'm like, I got to do that. And that is so cool.
Absolutely. The absolute dream of a lifetime.
Fantastic.
And who knows, one of these days, maybe I'll be over there with you. Hope springs eternal, right? So
exactly.
Everybody sent me the ads when they first started doing it. They were just like, "Oh, you should do this."
Yeah.
It's like, I don't.
Oh yeah.
Not right now.
Scotland for me is one of those bucket list places. I've got family history back in Scotland. I want to go and see my own castles because I have a lot of them, and I'd like to go and take ownership of them and stay in my own castle. I actually can stay in one of my castles. They have a clan organization that if you're a member of, you can stay in the castle, and I am. So yeah, definitely on my bucket list. But to be able to go to Loch Ness,
I'm calling your +1. I'm sorry, Dwayne, but I'm the +1.
yes, exactly.
Ladies, I can hook you up. I know a guy who knows a guy. I got
Yeah,
you.
there we
Just
go.
tell me. We'll make
Yeah.
it. I'll tell you what. We'll make it half a writer's retreat, half a Nessie expedition,
go.
and we'll just
Yeah,
write it off on our taxes.
because standing on the shores of Ness, I can't imagine how unfreaking believable that will be, and to
It
be
is
able to stand there
beautiful.
with all my girls, that would even be 10 times better. So absolutely fantastic.
It's magical. There's no place on earth like it. It's easy to see where people get that, oh, magic, it's like magic does exist.
Yes.
It's you just got to look, open your eyes to it. It's all right there.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
for sure.
let me ask you, Ashley, because I mean, obviously you're continuing as, part of this sort of research team, and you've been in touch with Alan and all that as far as future expeditions possibly and that sort of stuff. Are you personally building any kind of online presence for yourself? Are you considering, because I know Amanda has her sort of social media presence that she has, are you looking to kind of brand yourself that way at all and sort of create that for yourself?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's not anything currently at the immediate moment, but as this kind of grows and as it grows more with the Loch Ness exploration team and everything else, then yeah, because ultimately I like to think of myself as kind of a Loch Ness, again, using that as an all-around term, because there's lake monsters all over this world. I live just an hour or so away from Ogopogo, and I spend a lot of time up there too, kind of doing my own thing. But to that effect, yes, because I feel like to open this to a conversation, a lot of people have sightings that they don't know what to do with, or just general curiosity. There's so much in this world. And like I said, if you want to separate Nessie as a flesh and blood creature away from the woo, great, let's talk. Oh, you want to talk about the woo and my favorite little thing is this, one of my favorite things online is it's this little kind of meme, and a guy's like, I'm going to choose to believe that the Loch Ness Monster is a prehistoric ghost, a dinosaur ghost, because who can prove me wrong? It's cute, right? And so like, to open up that discussion with people and to encourage that, because that's where you get the best ideas, and everybody's got a perspective, everybody's got a different point of view, and if we work together, we can find this thing. So yeah, I think having that presence, it's hard because Amanda makes it look so easy.
She does.
I'll have to get with her and figure out how to do it. But yeah, I would definitely like to go down that path for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, we're here for you. We'll cheer.
Exactly.
We'll be in your corner the whole time.
Yep. Fan club, baby. Well, we want to thank you for coming on this episode of Unfreaking Believable, because this has just been an awesome discussion, and obviously you're going to be a friend just like Amanda. So welcome to the club. Welcome to the friend of the show status, and we look forward to visiting with you again soon.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Yeah. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on whatever platform you listen on. Join our Unfreaking Believable Facebook group and follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Visit our website at www.ufbpodcast. And if you have an unfreaking believable story, reach out to us at ufbpodcast@gmail.com. We'd like to hear your story too.
In fact, go Go ahead and subscribe so you never miss a single Unfreaking Believable episode. And if you enjoyed this interview, swing on over to our Patreon for some exclusive content. Betsy, you got a quote for the day to send us off?
I do. This quote of the day comes from Edna Buchanan. The past is an unsolved mystery and the truth a moving target.
Oh, that is excellent and so appropriate. And I have a feeling you should put that on a postcard.
I think so. For sure.
Be sure to join us next time for yet another unfreaking believable guest with an unfreaking believable story.
And as always, thank you for listening. And as you go out into this world, remember, don't just be amazing.
Be unfreaking believable. See you next time.